Hello everyone. Hello everyone. I do hoping you are well. Nowadays I want to talk about carbohydrate. Uh, I want to focus on important note about this section. Hello, hello. Uh, uh, I try to gather important note for you today, and I focus on important note for final exam. Don't worry about final exam. My question is so easy and are related to session that I discussed today. Can you see my slide? Okay. At first, I want to talk about the biomedical importance of carbohydrate. As you know, carbohydrates are the most abundant biomolecules on the earth. For example, we have cellulose. Cellulose is found in cell wall and in plant. I talk about this polysaccharide in other slide. Also, we have a structural and metabolic role for carbohydrate. For example, in plants, carbon dioxide and water converted to glucose, starch, and cellulose. And for animal, in animal, carbohydrates are synthesized from other compounds like lipid, uh, glycerol, and amino acid. As you know, in humans like me and you, we cannot synthesize carbohydrates. Hello, hello. We can synthesize carbohydrate from amino acid, fatty acid, and cholesterol. But we can synthesize carbohydrate from some glucogenic amino acid. In addition, carbohydrate can be used as fuel and energy storage. We have glycogen as an important polysaccharide for energy storage in human. And as you know, we have glucose as the most and important monosaccharide in our body. In addition, carbohydrates are important in cell recognition in our body, in your body, and in my body. In immune responses, they can act as antigenic determinants or antibody structure. In addition, they can use as a lubricant. For example, hyaluronic acid is an important carbohydrate that can act as a lubricant in our body. We talk about hyaluronic acid in other slides. As you know, a carbohydrate can act as an index for protein aging. In details, when we have addition of glyco monosaccharide or disaccharide in the end terminal of some protein, it means we have increased age in protein. After that, this structure can be targeted by proteolytic enzyme in lysosome. Here in this slide, you can see the role of polysaccharide in cell adhesion. Here you can see polysaccharide and carbohydrate in uh, in the surface of the cell For example, we have some toxin, we have some plasma membrane protein and lipids that can bind to carbohydrate. These carbohydrates can act as a recognition system for other microorganisms like virus and like bacteria and like other immune cell like lymphocytes. I have a question from you. Who can say about the biomedical importance of glucose as the most abundant and important monosaccharide in our body? Who can say the biomedical importance of glucose in our body, in biomedical, in biomedicine? Please raise your hand or type your response. Yes, it provides energy, the production of energy. Yes, blood antigen. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. In cancer, yes, in cancer, glucose is also important. It's better to say that dysregulation in glucose production is important in etiology of cancer. Um, uh, Fatima said, "Is this a slide on Navid?" Unfortunately, I cannot upload the slide on Skyroom, but I sent the full of a slide for you and other students. At the end of the class, please write your email address. Then I send it to and other students. I will be back to previous my question. We said I have a question. We said who can say about the biomedical importance of glucose? As you know, glucose is the most important carbohydrate in our body. And this monosaccharide is the most dietary carbohydrate that is absorbed into blood circulation, into bloodstream. Other sugars, for example, galactose, fructose, and other polysaccharides, for example, glycogen, are converted into glucose in liver. We talk about this notion in other slide. Also, glucose can act as a major metabolic fuel in humans. And importantly, it can a unique fuel of the fetus when a woman have pregnancy. As we said earlier, glucose can act as a precursor for synthesis of all other carbohydrates. For example, glycogen as an important polysaccharide for storage in liver and muscle. Also, we have ribose and deoxyribose in nucleic acid, for example, RNA and DNA. Also, we have galactose in lactose of milk and in glycoprotein and other parts. We talk about this notion in other slide. Um, as you know, we have a wide variety of disease which are associated with dysregulation of carbohydrate metabolism. For example, diabetes mellitus. As you know, in diabetes mellitus, we have deficiency in insulin secretion, or we have resistance to insulin action. Yes, the hallmark of this disease is hyperglycemia. As you know, we have high level of glucose in blood circulation. Other disease like like galactosemia, fructosuria, and glycogen storage disease or GSD and lactose intolerance are principal and important example regarding diseases that are associated with carbohydrate metabolism. We talk about these disorders when I want to talk about dysregulation of metabolism of biomolecules like protein, like lipid, and like carbohydrate. This section is not related to this part. We talk about this section in maybe session 2 or uh, next term. But about the definition and terminology of carbohydrate. As you know, carbohydrate is composed of two terms, carbo and hydrate. Carbon is clear, carbon, you know carbon. But hydrate, it means the carbon unit is hydrated. Here, you can the simple structure of carbohydrate: C, carbon, hydrogen 2, and O, N. N always is equal or more than 3. The simplest carbohydrate, as you know, is glycerol aldehyde and dihydroxy acetone. Uh, I changed the slide. We have the slide with definition of the with definition and name. Is it clear? Is it clear? Is it clear? Definition and names. No, the connection is so. Thank you. Thank you. We have a different classification for carbohydrates in the literature. In this slide, you see the classification of carbohydrate into two class, aldehyde and ketone. As you know, carbohydrate are aldehyde or ketone derivative of polyhydric alcohol. Here you see the aldehyde and here you see the ketone group. Another terminology for carbohydrate is glucoside. Glucoside, it means these compounds are usually sweet. But we have some exception. For example, some sugars like cellulose and starch are not sweet. And some compounds like glycerol and monilin and aspartame and saccharin are not sweet. The carbohydrates are classified based on the number of building blocks and based on they are pure or not pure. At first, I want to talk about the classification of carbohydrates based on the number of unique or building blocks. Based on this classification, we have monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. The monosaccharides are simple sugars. Monosaccharides are sugars that cannot be hydrolyzed into a simpler unit or simpler carbohydrate. After that, we have oligosaccharide. Oligo, it means few. These compounds these components are composed to between 2 to 10 units, and they can be hydrolyzed into simple sugar or simple carbohydrate. We talk about the example regarding monosaccharide and oligosaccharide and polysaccharide in other slides. Finally, we have polysaccharide based on the number of building block in carbohydrate. Poly means many. There are more than 10 units in the structure of polysaccharides. Also, we have pure sugar. In pure sugar, we have only carbohydrate in the structure. Hello. Um, can you see the slides? Okay, I repeat the pure sugar again. I said that we have another classification for carbohydrate. In this classification, we have pure sugar and not pure sugar. When we said we have pure sugar, it means we have only, for example, carbohydrate or monosaccharide in the structure. For example, we don't have lipid or protein in the structure. But in not pure sugar, we have other component in the structure of carbohydrate. For example, glycoprotein, protoglycan, glycolipid, and lipopolysaccharide. For instance, we have protein in the structure of glycoprotein and protoglycan, and we have lipid in the structure of glycolipid. Is it clear? Is it clear? Okay, okay. Thank you. I want to continue my presentation with definition of monosaccharides at first. As you know, Monosaccharides are carbohydrates that cannot be hydrolyzed into simpler other carbohydrates. The simplest sugar or the simplest monosaccharide is glyceraldehyde. Other sugars usually are derived from glyceraldehydes. The monosaccharide may be classified based on the number of carbon into, for example, triose, tetrose, pentose, hexose, and heptose, depending on the number of carbon atom. Or they can be classified into aldose or ketose, depending on whether they have aldehyde group or ketone group. All monosaccharides have asymmetric or chiral carbon. Who can say about the definition of asymmetric carbon or chiral carbon? Who can say the definition of asymmetric carbon in the context of monosaccharide? Asymmetric carbon or chiral? Thank you. Ali said we have four different bond or four different group that can bond to carbon. Thank you very much. Which is bond to with different group. But as you know, the glyceraldehyde cannot be classified into a monosaccharide with asymmetric carbon. Why? Why? Glyceraldehyde cannot be classified into a monosaccharide with a asymmetric or chiral carbon. Why dihydroxyacetone cannot be classified into a monosaccharide with asymmetric carbon? Who can say? Uh, Fatima said because it has a small OH group. A small OH group. And Drame said because it has hydrogen in its end. And Fatima said because they don't have different functional group. Yes, because we said we have an exception in this regard as for dihydroxyacetone. As you said, dihydroxyacetone, yes, thank you very much, is an exception because this structure or it doesn't have four different groups that bound to carbon atom. As we said, monosaccharides are aldehyde or ketone derivative of polyhydric alcohol, and they can be classified into simple monosaccharide or derivative monosaccharide. We talk about this notion in other slide. As we said, as I said earlier, monosaccharide can be classified based on the number of carbon into trios, trios with 3 carbon, tetrose with 4 carbon, pentose with 5 carbon, hexose with 6 carbon, and heptose with 7 carbon in the structure. Before I continue other slide, I want to focus on this notion that in final exam, it's not necessary to memorize the structure of polysaccharide, for example, disaccharide and pure polysaccharide, not pure polysaccharide. These notions are not important for final exam. Uh, I try to focus on important notion for final exam. Don't worry, and I try to focus important and clinically important notion for final exam and common session. Not, for example, the structure and isomeries. It's not important for final exam. Don't worry. I continue. Golfam said, um, monosaccharide have carbon between 3 to 7, 3 to 7, and grams. So in exam won't ask you about the number of, no, no. The, I we don't have a question regarding the shape of the structure. For example, I don't show the structure of, for example, glucose and have a question about the structure. No, no, no. The structure is not important for final exam. It don't supposed to memorize the structure, the shape of, for example, sugar and carbohydrate for final exam. Thank you. You're welcome. Can you repeat whatever you said? Uh, I said I said many things. Which one? Thank you. Uh, at the end of the class, I reviewed the important slide and important note for final exam at the end of the class. Don't worry. Yes, you focus on clinical importance and some important thing that I review these notions at the end of the class. Zainab. Golfam said, we have remembered. It's so okay. It's so okay. But for final exam, it's not necessary because I think the memorizing of the structure is not important for students who study, for example, medicine, pharmacology, and dentistry. But it's important for students who study chemistry, for example, and biochemistry. But for students who study medicine, I think it's not important. Let me I continue my lecture, my presentation. We said that we have a classification of classification of carbohydrate based on the number of carbon. Also, we have classification of monosaccharide based on the functional group. In this notion, we have two groups of carbohydrate, aldose and ketose. For example, glyceraldehyde or dihydroxyacetone. Glyceraldehyde is a monosaccharide with aldose group, aldehyde with aldehyde group. Therefore, glyceraldehyde is an aldose monosaccharide. However, dihydroxyacetone have a ketone group in its structure. Therefore, dihydroxyacetone is a ketose monosaccharide. Yes. Finally, we have the classification of monosaccharide based on the combination of number and functional group. It's so easy and clear. Aldohexose, it means these monosaccharides have both aldehyde group and 6 carbon in its structure. For example, we have ketopentose, for example. It means these monosaccharides these monosaccharides has both ketone group in its structure and has 5 carbon in its structure. Yes, it has pentose plus ketose. Yes. Here, you see the structure of a hypothetical aldohexose. As you can see here, we have aldehyde group in the structure in red circle, and we have six carbon in its structure. Alloyed at C1, yes. Excuse me, I have an error. Um, excuse me. Mhm. Uh, okay, thank you. Can you see my slides? Can you see my slides? No? Excuse me. Nope. Nope. Let me share my slide. I exit and enter again. Excuse me. Is it okay? Okay. The recorded slide on Navid system is related to Dr. Noruzi. Yes? Yes? Okay. Uh, the content is the same. Carbohydrate in related to Dr. Emangolipur and Dr. Noruzi is the same. But I want to review the important notes and I have a review because I don't have a class regarding the carbohydrate session. Uh, Thank you. In this slide, you see the overall view regarding the structure of. My voice is clear now. My voice is clear. Yes, yes. In this slide, thank you. In this slide, thank you. In this slide, you see the overall view regarding the structure of monosaccharide. As you can see here, we have, is it reflecting? I don't know why. As you can see here, we have glyceraldehyde as an, my voice is clear and the review is pretty different from the video uploaded in Navid. Yes, because the recorded video is related. Please let me again. Please let me a minute. The recorded slide that the recorded is related to Dr. Noruzi. Yes, but I think the recorded slide that by Dr. Noruzi is more difficult in comparison with me. I try to gather important notes, not other points, not other points that are related to detail of biochemistry. Let me I can. Yes, these these slides are enough for final exam, but it's not necessary to memorize all slides, all my slides for final exam. As we said earlier, at the end of the class, I focus on important slide and important notes regarding the exam. Don't worry about the final exam, please. Don't worry. You're welcome. In this slide, the overall structure of monosaccharide. As you can see here, we have glyceraldehyde as a aldotriose. Aldotriose means we have aldehyde groups in its structure and we have three carbon in its structure. We have aldotetrose, deerythrose, detriose. We have aldopentose, for example, ribose, arabinose, xylose, and lysose. Also, we have aldohexose. We have allose, altrose, glucose, malt, and galactose. It's not necessary to memorize the name of all structure for final exam, but the name of glyceraldehyde as an important aldotriose, ribose as an important structure in the structure of nucleic acid like DNA and RNA, and also important component in the structure of ATP is important for final exam. As for aldohexose, the we have some important monosaccharides like glucose, mannose, and galactose. But it's not necessary to memorize the structure and the name of allose, altrose, glucose, idose, and tallose for final exam. It's not important for final exam because it's related to students, for example, who study chemistry and biochemistry, not students who study medicine. And about this structure, in previous slide we talked about monosaccharide with aldehyde group, but in this slide we talk about monosaccharide with ketone group. Or we have dihydroxyacetone. Dihydroxy dihydroxyacetone is a ketotriose, and we have erythrulose, ribulose, xylulose, and we have fructose, surbose, and tagatose. For final exam, the structure of the name of fructose and the importance of fructose and dihydroxyacetone and ribulose is important for final exam. Here you can see the straight change structure of. Uh, okay. We said that in monosaccharide with ketone group in their structure, it's important to note you know the name of some this monosaccharide. For example, dihydroxyacetone, erythribulose, and fructose. But but it's not necessary to memorize the name and the name of the other monosaccharides like xylulose, tagatose, surbose for final exam. I want to talk about the structure of glucose. Here you can see the linear structure of glucose. As you know, glucose is aldo hexose, yes, because it has aldehyde group in its structure and it has cetone in its structure. Also, we have other structures for glucose, simple ring or horse and chair form. I want to uh, focus on this notion. Yes, it also has a ring structure. Yes, here you can see the ring structure of glucose. But it's not important to memorize the structure of the ring structure and chair form structure of glucose and other compounds and other monosaccharides for final exam. It's not important. But it's important to know that we have different type of structure for monosaccharide. For example, linear structure, ring structure, and or cyclic structure or chair form. But the memorizing the structure and the shape is not important for final exam. No, yes, the change, Dream said, thank you very much, Dream. Dream said the change form is more stable in comparison with ring structure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But I want to talk about isomerism of sugar and or isomerism of carbohydrate or monosaccharide. Totally, we have two type of isomerism for carbohydrate: configuration isomerism and conformational isomerism. Configuration isomerism and conformational isomerism. As for configuration isomerism, we have two subclasses. Structural isomerism, it includes functional and ring, and we have stereoisomerism. It includes enantiomer, diastereomers, and anomer. As for isomerism, it's not necessary to memorize the shape of various type of isomer in for carbohydrate. For example, I never said I never have a question that, for example, this structure is related to which isomer? Is this structure which is related to, for example, which enantiomer, which epimer? But it's important to know that we have different type of isomers for carbohydrate. At first, I want to talk about structural isomers. Based on the structural isomerism, we have two types of isomer in this regard: aldose and ketose isomerism, or we have two functional isomers for monosaccharide, aldose and ketose. Here you can see, yes, the definition uh, is enough for finalizing the definition, and also in a continue. we focus on other important notes regarding isomers, but the memorizing the structure and the shape is not important. For example, as you can see here, glucose, glucose and fructose are functional isomers. I repeat it again, it's important. Glucose and fructose are functional isomers because glucose has 6 carbon in its structure, but it has aldehyde group. Yes? However, fructose has ketone group, but it has 6 carbon in its structure. Therefore, glucose and fructose are functional isomers. Is it clear? Is it clear? Glucose and fructose are functional isomers. Is it clear? Thank you very much. Uh, it's important for final exam. It's enough. As you can see here, we have another definition or anomeric carbon. Who can say about the definition of anomeric carbon? Who can say about the definition of anomeric carbon? Please help me. Anomeric carbon. D and L configuration, carbon on which functional group is attached, like alpha glucose and beta glucose. Thank you very much for your cooperation. As for monosaccharide with aldehyde group like glucose, like for example, like glucose, the carbon one is considered as an anomeric carbon. In another word, carbon with aldehyde group is considered as an anomeric carbon. But for monosaccharide with ketone group, the carbon 2 is considered as an anomeric carbon. It's enough. The carbon 1 for monosaccharide with aldehyde group and carbon 2 with in monosaccharide with ketone group. Also, we have alpha and beta configuration, alpha and beta isomerism. I can talk about this definition in other slide. But as you can see here, we have carbon 1 for glucose and carbon 2 for fructose as an anomeric carbon. Also, we have a ring isomerism or pyranose and furanose structure. Pyran means we have a 6-member rings, pyran. Furan means we have a 5-member rings. A 5-member rings or furan, a 6-member ring or pyran. The ring structure of monosaccharides are similar to the ring structure of pyran or furan. As for glucose, uh, carbon 1, excuse me. Gulfam said 5 carbon plus 1 oxygen for pyron. Yes, we said that pyron, it means we have a 6 member rings. In furan, we have 5 member rings. Yes, pyranos or furanos. We said that for glucose in solution, approximately more than 99% is uh, in the pyranose form in the solution. For example, I said that for glucose in solution, we have pyranose form as a dominant form in the solution. Here you can see more than approximately more than 99% of glucose is in pyranose form in solution. Dream said has a question. Most of carbohydrate in body found in D form. Yes, for amino acid we have L form, but as for monosaccharide we have D form as a dominant form in our body. Yes, D form for carbohydrate or monosaccharide, and L form for amino acid. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes, we have the form of amino acid in, for example, cell wall of some bacteria. Yes, we have some exception, but usually at the most of the time, for example, enzyme, proteolytic enzyme in our body can target L form of amino acid in protein. But we have some exception. Yes, you're right. But most of the time, we have D form from carbohydrate and L form for amino acid. You're welcome. Here you can see this. You're welcome. You're welcome. Here you can see the structure of pyranose and furanose regarding D-glucose. D-glucose. It's not important to memorize the structure, the shape for final exam. I want to repeat it again, but it's important. We have um, general knowledge about different type of isomers. Also, we have stereoisomers. Stereoisomer are mirror image of each other. They are mirror image of each other. But as you can see here, they cannot be superimposed on its mirror image. When we have a chiral carbon or when we have an asymmetric carbon, we have stereoisomerism. It's important. If we don't have a chiral carbon, or if we don't have an asymmetric carbon, we cannot have a stereoisomer. For example, I have a question. Uh, um, mm, I have a question. Uh, I have a question. Please let me. Uh, who can say which carbohydrate or which monosaccharide doesn't have a stereoisomer? Which monosaccharide in this slide? Which monosaccharide? Thank you very much. Dihydroxyacetone. Why? Why, Zahra? Why? Thank you very much. It is right. Why? No chiral center. Thank you, Fatima. As Fatima said, yes, it doesn't have a chiral carbon or it doesn't have an asymmetric carbon because the C or carbon in the structure of dihydroxyacetone is bound to similar unit CH2OH, CH2OH, and 2O. Therefore, we cannot have a stereo isomer for dihydroxyacetone. And in this slide, in this slide, which monosaccharide uh, don't have a cannot have a stereoisomer? Which? Uh, Diglyceraldehyde. Why? Why? No. In the structure of glyceraldehyde, which carbon has a chiral has is not a chiral carbon? Please pay attention. Yes, it has a chiral center. No, monos, no, monos, no. As you see, in monos, we have two isomers. Yes, all have chiral carbon. The first carbon is not chiral, it's not important, but in this slide, all structures have but in this slide, all structure uh, excuse me. Zahra said why glycer. Zahra said why glycerolate is a stereoisomerase. Zahra, please pay attention. The carbon 2 in glyceraldehyde, the carbon 2 in glyceraldehyde is considered as a chiral carbon. Yes? Yes. Therefore, we have two isomers for glyceraldehyde, D and L isomers. Is it clear? Because in glyceraldehyde, the carbon 2, excuse me, the carbon the carbon 2 is it clear? The carbon 2, the carbon glyceraldehyde is an asymmetric carbon. Therefore we have D and L glyceraldehyde. And another said, how can we identify the number of stereoisomers of a carbon? Ravan and other students respond you 2n. N is the number of chiral carbon. For example, I have a question. Here you can see the structure of glucose. Yeah, glucose. Based on this formula, please say the number of stereoisomers for glucose. For glucose. The number of stereoisomers for glucose. Thank you. The number of chiral carbon for glucose is 4. Yes, therefore we have 16 stereoisomer for glucose. I have another question. Please say the number of stereoisomers for ribose. For ribose. Thank you very much. The number of chiral or asymmetric carbon for ribose is 3. Therefore, we have 8 stereoisomers or stereoisomer for ribose. Thank you very much. Is it clear? Okay. Do you agree with 5-minute rest? 5-minute rest. Thank you very much. Thank you. Golfam said, I thought that maybe admin is a student. Why Golfam? Because the rest continue more than 5 minutes. Golfam said, I thought that maybe admin is a student. Maybe because the rest will continue more than 5 minutes. Okay, okay. Will you upload this PowerPoint on Navid? Yes, I will upload the PowerPoint on Navid after the class. And at the end of the class, please one of the students write the email address on this box, and I send the slide to his or her, to her or him, and then she or he will send the slide to all other students. At the end of the class, please, Ali, because I lost your message uh, at the end of the class. Thank you very much. At the end of the class, Golfam and other students. No, I don't think the class lasts until 12. I don't think. Please, I continue the class. I try to focus on important note, not all notes with detail. It's not important. Here you see the structure of the stereoisomers regarding amino acid. Dr. Said Ibrahimi explained. Dr. Said Ibrahimi explained the stereoisomer for amino acid. As I said earlier, the prominent, the dominant stereoisomer regarding amino acids is L. But as for carbohydrate, we have D form inside the cell. D and L, it's important to note, it's important to memorize that when we talk about the stoichiometry of carbohydrate of an hypothetical component, D and L are used to define two isoform relative to a standard reference. It's not related to rotation of polarized beam. It's related uh, um, to isoform relative to a standard reference like glycerolide. In another way, D and L show the conformation of atom relative to glyceraldehyde. It's not related to optical rotation. Please memorize this notion. D and L is not related to optical rotation. It's related to conformation of atoms relative to glycerolide as a reference monosaccharide. This slide is not important for final exam. We talk about this notion in other slides. We said that we have D and we said that we have four asymmetric carbon in structure of glucose. Therefore, we have 16 isomer for glucose. Also, we said that we have enantiomer. The enantiomers are mirror image of each other. Mirror image of each other. For example, in this structure, we have L-glucose. In this structure, we have D-glucose. For L-glucose, chiral carbon atom adjacent to terminal carbon is considered as a reference carbon. The hydroxyl group is placed on the left, but as for D-glucose, the chiral atom, the chiral carbon atom adjacent to terminal group is located on the right. I want to repeat this notion. For D-glucose, chiral carbon atom, chiral carbon atom chiral carbon atom adjacent to terminal carbon is placed on on the right. But as for L-glucose, the chiral carbon atom adjacent to the terminal group is placed or is located on the left. Okay. We have another isomerase regarding carbohydrate, epimer. Epimer. Who can say who can define the epimer for me? Epimer. Epimer. It has one carbon change. Okay. Glucose and galactose are epimer because they differ in position of alcohol group. Different in only one position of OH or hydroxyl group. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As you know, carbohydrate isomer that different in configuration around only one carbon atom are defined as epimer of each other. I repeat it again. I said carbohydrate isomers that different in configuration around only one specific carbon atom are defined as epimer of each other. For example, Glucose and galactose. Glucose and galactose. Glucose and galactose. Um, Glucose and galactose. Glucose and galactose are, thank you very much, glucose or and mannose, glucose and galactose. At first, I want to talk about the glucose and galactose. Glucose and galactose are C4 epimer, C4 epimer, because their structure differ in the position of OH group at carbon 4. Yes, is it clear? Glucose and galactose. But glucose and mannose. Glucose and mannose are C2 epimer, C2 epimer, because because yes, because yes, because they differ only in OH group at the position of carbon 2. It's important to memorize this notion. Glucose and galactose are epimer of each other. Glucose and mannose are epimer of each other. But for example, galactose and mannose differ in the position of two carbon. They are not epimer of each other. My voice is clear. My voice is clear. Is my voice clear? Thank you. I repeat it again. We said that glucose and galactose are epimer of, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. We said that glucose and galactose are epimer of each other at, because they differ only in the position of OH at carbon 4, and glucose and mannose are also epimer of each other because they differ in the position of OH at the carbon 2. Yes, but we said that but we said that galactose and mannose are not epimer of each other. Are not epimer of each other. Galactose and mannose, because because they differ in the position of OH group at two carbon, not one carbon. Therefore, galactose and mannose are not epimer of each other. Please pay attention to this notion. Here, you see the structure of glucose, galactose, and mannose. We said that glucose and galactose are epimer of each other. Glucose and mannose are epimer of each other, but galactose and mannose are not epimer of each other. We have another classification for isomerism in carbohydrate or anomer. Uh, I want to continue my this session by definition of two terms: hemiacetal and acetal, and hemiketal and ketal. Is my voice clear? Okay. Is it clear? Is my voice clear? One of the students wrote about the Dr. Noruzi. I don't understand. It's not clear for me. Which item in the slide of Dr. Noruzi? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Voice is lacking. Oh, yes. But I want to talk about the definition of. Okay, okay. We didn't take in the Okay, okay, I got it. I got it. Thank you very much. But no, no, I want to talk about the anomer. Anomer. Before we talk about the anomer as as an important isomerism of carbohydrate, I want to talk about one of students have a question. I didn't understand your question. After that, I noticed that the lecture regarding hemiacetal and acetal is not clear in the voice uploaded by Dr. Noruzi. It's not important, Sani. It's not important. Dr. Noruzi, Dr. Noruzi, the recorded file uploaded in Navid uh, is related to Dr. Noruzi. Dr. Noruzi. It's not important. It's not important. Uh, Let me continue my presentation. Thank you very much. We said that before we talk about anomer, I want to talk about hemiacetal and acetal and hemiketal and ketal in terms of isomerism. As you can see here, when in this part, we have an aldehyde group, we have an aldehyde group R, CHO, and R prime OH as an alcohol group. When we have combination of an aldehyde group and we have combination of alcohol group and aldehyde group, at first we have hemiacetal. After that, when we have a combination of a second alcohol group, we have acetal group. Acetal group is more stable in comparison with hemiacetal group. I want to repeat it again. Acetal group is more stable in comparison with hemiacetal group. Hemiacetal group is formed between aldehyde group and alcohol group, but acetal group is formed between hemiacetal and second alcohol. This slide, this slide is not important for final exam. This slide only shows the process of formation of. Okay, okay. Uh, at first, we said that another isomers for carbohydrates are anomer, but it's necessary to know that uh, formation of acetal and hemiacetal when you want to learn about a process of anomerism in case of glucose. As you can see here, hemiacetal is formed between aldehyde and alcohol. Yes? Is my voice clear? Is my voice clear? Yes? Yes. Yes. Okay, okay. Uh, okay, thank you very much. Yes, unfortunately, the internet connection is poor recently, and I repeat it again. And I repeat the important, not for final exam at the end of the class. Don't worry. We said that, we said that, doctor, there is a sound that is coming from you. Is it clear? Is it clear? Is my voice? Yes. Thank you very much. We said that another. There is. Let me continue my lecture. Thank you very much. We said that creation of an anomeric carbon, the creation of an anomeric carbon generate a new pair of isomer, alpha and beta configuration of sugar. I want to talk about anomers as important isomers regarding carbohydrates. Before I continue the definition of anomers, I want to talk about hemiacetal and acetal because the knowledge about hemiacetal and acetals are necessary for the definition of anomers. Yes, I said that hemiacetal is formed after condensation between aldehyde and alcohol. Yes, but acetal is formed after condensation between hemiacetal and alcohol, the second alcohol group. Generally, acetal group is more stable in comparison with hemiacetal group. The formation of hemiacetal and acetal group are found in the formation of anomers of different carbohydrates. This process, the formation of hemiacetal and acetal is important when you study the formation of different anomers regarding carbohydrates. In this slide, you see the formation of anomers regarding glucose. The carbon 1 or carbon or aldehyde group and the carbon 2 are involved in the formation of different form of anomer for glucose. In previous slide, we talked about hemiacetal and acetal group. Do you remember? We said that the condensation between the condensation between OH group or alcohol and aldehyde group. Yes, I want to excuse me. I want to share my slide. I want to share my slide and repeat it again. Excuse me. Uh, can you see my pointer, my green pointer? My green pointer. Yes. I repeat it again. We said that the formation of, thank you very much. We said that the formation of heavy acetal and acetals are important when you study the anomers of glucose. Here you can see the hydroxyl group, yes, the hydroxyl group. And you can see the aldehyde group, yes. The condensation between aldehyde group and hydroxyl group led to the formation of hemiacetal and acetal group, or glucopyranose and glucopyranose in two forms, alpha and beta. Don't worry, it's not important to memorize the structure of alpha D glucopyranose, alpha D glucofuranose. It's not important, but it's important to know or memorize that we have formation of acetal and hemiacetal when we talk about formation of different anomers regarding carbohydrate. Okay. We have two type of anomers regarding glucose: alpha glucopyranose and beta glucopyranose, a six-member ring structure. Yes, but how does this structure form? We said that the condensation between aldehyde group and OH group from carbon 5 led to the formation of different form of anomers regarding glucose: glucopyranose and glucopyranose alpha and glucopyranose beta. In this condition, we have formation of H bis, excuse me. H bis is also H20, H20. I don't know. I don't understand. H20 is also produced. Oh, H2O, up. Water, yes. I think H20. H20. I think H20. Excuse me, H2O or water is also produced. Yes, H2O or water is also produced. The alpha and beta form of glucose are not mirror image of each other. Alpha D-glucopyranose and beta D-glucopyranose are not mirror image of each other, and they are referred to as stereoisomer also. Here you can see the anomers regarding fructose. Fructose is a keto ketone fructose is a monosaccharide with ketone group. Yes, ketone group. uh, fructose fructose This structure is related to fructose. Yes, the condensation between this part and this part from fructose can lead to the formation of two form of anomers regarding furanose is only for uh, no, we also have furanose regarding glucose. If let me if if uh, if we have a condensation between this part and this part, not five, not carbon 5, carbon 4, we have also furanose regarding glucose as a monosaccharide with 6 carbon. Okay, it's not important to memorize the structure and the shape of different form of anomalies regarding fructose, glucose, mannose, and galactose. But it's important to know that we have two usual type of anomalies regarding carbohydrate. alpha and beta. It's enough for final exam. I never have a question, for example, Alhamdulillah. Yes, Alhamdulillah. Khuda ro shukr. Yes, I never have a question. For example, I show this structure to you, and then, for example, I have a question. Please write the name of this structure. Alpha defructofuranose, beta defructofuranose. No, no, I didn't. I never have such question for final exam. It's not important for you as a student who study medicine. But as thank you, you're welcome. You're welcome. And as I said earlier, we have another isomerase or conformational isomerase, chair and both. Who can say which one is more stable in our body, chair or both? Which one is more stable in our body? Chair conformation. Yes, chair is more stable, more stable. Usually, chair is more stable in comparison with both because yes, thank you very much. Because in most condition, we have interferes between functional group in both. They can we have interferes with functional group in both conformational isomeres. But in chair isomeres, in the most of the time, important functional group are far from each other. Yes, they cannot repel each other. They cannot repel each other. But in both form, in most of situation, the functional group can repel each other. Therefore, the chair form is more stable in comparison in both form, in the most condition, in the most situation. No, I want to talk about other derivative of monosaccharide. The oxy sugar are important derivative of monosaccharide that are found in our body. When we said the oxy sugar, it means it lacks an oxygen group. It lacks an oxygen group because we said the oxy sugar. The oxy sugar, it means it lacks an oxygen group. The existence of the oxy sugar is important in our body, in your body. For example, it's important for final exam. Please pay attention. For example, we have the oxyribose in DNA. Yes, we have L. Yes, yes. It's lack of oxygen group. For example, please For example, into the oxide D ribofuranose, we don't have OH in carbon 2. In carbon 2. As usual, we have OH, yes, but when we have the oxy sugar, we don't have oxygen, yes. Therefore, we don't have OH. We don't have OH. Because we don't have an oxygen atom, therefore OH without without O. My slide, please let me. My slide is the content of my slides is related to Harper and Lippincott, especially Harper's. But uh, we have extra content in Harper's that I think it's not necessary for you. If you study my slides, I think it's enough for final exam. But there is no difference between content of my slides and Harper. If you studied the Harper's, you notice this notion. But I think we have an extra content in Harper's that it's not necessary for you in final exam. That you, as a student who study medicine in final exam. Yes, everything will be from the slide. Yes, yes. No, it's not necessary to study Harper and Lippincott for final exam. But it's suggested to study these books, Lippincott and Harper's, to add more information on on your knowledge about biochemistry. But for final exam, it's not necessary. Can we score like? Yes, don't worry about the final exam and about your score. If you study my slides well, um, I'm sure you have a good and perfect score on final in your final exam. Um, 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 this term, mm, uh, previously, the session related amino acid and proteins is really was related to me, but for the first time I have a lecture regarding carbohydrate. And I didn't have a sample of question because for the first time I teach you the carbohydrate session for the first time. I don't have the sample of question for final exam. Let me continue my lecture. Let me. And at the end of the class, please write your question. And if you have any other question, at the end of class, you can write your question, and I respond them. I respond them. Approximately 80 slides. The number of slides approximately 80. We said that we have important deoxy sugar. Um, mm, we said that we have important deoxy sugar, for example, deoxyribose in DNA, L-fucose in glycoprotein, and 2-deoxyglucose as an inhibitor of glucose metabolism. Please remember the name of this structure for final exam, the name of this structure. But also we have sugar alcohol. The sugar alcohol are result from mild reduction of carbonyl group, not the structure, not the name. The oxyribose, L-fucose, and 2-deoxyglucose, the name, not the structure. Now I want to talk about the sugar alcohol. The sugar alcohol are results from reduction of carbonyl group of monosaccharide, aldehyde group or ketone group or hydroxyl group. Sugar alcohol or alditol are designated by the addition of ITO to the name of the parent sugar. For example, sorbitol. Sorbitol build up in the eyes of diabetes, and it's important in cataract formation. Sugar alcohol you are usually sweet tasting. For example, sorbitol, mannitol, and xylitol are widely used in the food industry. In food industry, Here you can see several examples regarding sugar alcohol. As you can see here, we have additional OH group instead of carbonyl groups. OH or hydroxyl group. Yes, it reduce. Golfam said it reduced from carbonyl group. Yes, because in this condition we have OH group. Another derivative of sugars are sugar acids. We have different type of sugar acid: aldonic acid, aldonic acid, aldaric acid, and uronic acid. Aldonic acid are converted from aldose. Yes, they oxidize to CeOH. Yes, but there are a little difference between different type of sugar acid. Aldonic acid, when we have addition of an oxidizing compound, it converts an aldose to an aldonic acid. Aldehyde group is converted to carboxylic group. In this condition, we have aldonic acid, like for example, glucose, gluconic acid. Aldonic acid are important in the diagnosis of patient with diabetes mellitus. The detection of aldonic acid is frequently used in the detection of glucosuria in patient with uncontrolled in uncontrolled patient with diabetes. Aldonic acid. Also, we have aldaric acid. In aldaric acid, we have two carboxylic acid at the end of the monosaccharide. But as for uronic acid, we have formation of carboxylic acid at the end of the molecules. As for glucose, aldaric acid is glucaric acid, but as for glucose, uronic acid is glucuronic acid. In another word, monosaccharides to can be oxidized at carbon 3 and it yield uronic acid. For final exam, please memorize the difference between aldaric acid, aldonic acid, and uronic acid. Please memorize the difference between these structure. But the shape of a structure is not important. And for aldonic acid, I focused on the biomedical importance. We said that diabetes mellitus and in patient with uncontrolled diabetes mellitus, the detection of gluconic acid is important for diagnosis. When we have glucosuria, the detection of gluconic acid is important. Please memorize this notion. Carcinogen, I don't mean, I don't. Please explain it. Carcinogen. Which type is carcinogen? I don't. Glucaric acid. Yes, not all glucaric acid. Uh, Glucaric acid carcinogen. Yes, glucaric acid, the accumulation of um, totally sugar acids, especially glucaric acid. When we have accumulation of glucaric acid and other sugar acid, it can it cause the cell apoptosis and its cell proliferation, excuse me, the cell proliferation. Therefore, the accumulation of sugar acid, especially glucaric acid, can be regarded as a carcinogenic index in some tumor and cancers and malignancies. Thank you, Wolfram. Thank you. Also, we have sugar esters. Sugar esters are other derivative of carbohydrates. Sugar sugar esters are phosphate esters of some monosaccharides like glucose, fructose. But about the biomedical importance, the sugar esters are found in ATP and GTP. It's important. Sugar esters are found in ATP and GTP. They are phosphate esters of glucose and fructose and other monosaccharides. It's clear. Sugar esters formation between phosphate and other monosaccharide, especially glucose and fructose. And other derivative of carbohydrates are amino sugar. When we said amino sugars, it means we have addition of amine group. It's clear. It's clear. The amino sugar is principal component of glycoprotein and glycosaminoglycan. The amino sugar is frequently the amino sugars are frequently found in glycoproteins and glycosaminoglycan or GAG, GAG, GAG or glycosaminoglycan. Yes, this slide is very, very important for final exam. Please memorize this slide. We have glucosamine in hyaluronic acid. Glucosamine hyaluronic acid act as a lubricant and it's found in a skeleton system. Yes, I talk about hyaluronic acid in other slide. Galactosamine or chondroisinamine is found in chondroitin. Yes, monosamine is found in glycoprotein. Please memorize this slide for final exam. In addition, several antibiotics like erythromycin contain amino sugar in this structure because the existence of amino sugars is important for antibiotic activity of antibiotics like erythromycin. The structure, the shape is not important for final exam, but the biomedical importance is important for final exam. Here you see several examples regarding amino sugar. We have raminic acid, it contains amine group. Yes, we have sialic acid. Sialic acid is frequently used in the cell surface. When we have cell recognition system, in this system we frequently observe sialic acid. In addition, the existence of sialic acid can act as a aging index for cell. When we have addition of sialic acid, it notice other enzymes, other proteolytic enzyme that degrade the protein and um, uh, the protoglycan. Therefore, the addition of sialic acid into the terminal of into the terminal of protein can act as an aging index. Sialic acid in aging. In aging, sialic acid. Now I want to talk about disaccharide. Disaccharide. In disaccharide also, it's important to know the formation of hemiacetal and acetal. We talk about this item. But before we talk about the disaccharide, I want to talk about another term or glycoside. Glycoside. The reaction between hydroxyl group from anomeric carbon and another compound can lead to formation of glycoside bond. The second compound can be monosaccharide or can be non-monosaccharide or a glycon. If the second group contains hydroxyl group, we have O glycosidic bond. For example, in disaccharide, we have O glycosidic bond because we have condensation between two monosaccharides. But if the second group is amine group, we have an glycosidic bond. For example, in ATP and in GTP, we have N glycosidic bond. It's clear and it's easy. When we have condensation between two monosaccharide or two hydroxyl group, we have O glycosidic bond. But we have condensation between hydroxyl group from a monosaccharide and amine group, we have N glycosidic bond. In disaccharide, we have O glycosidic bond, but for example, in ATP or in GTP or in CTP, we have N glycosidic bond. Here you can see difference between O glycosidic bond and N glycosidic bond. O glycosidic bond is clear and N glycosidic bond. Is it clear? It's easy. It's not important to memorize the structure, but it's important to have a knowledge about the definition. What about the biomedical importance of glycosides? The glycosides are important in medicine. Uh, we have a various function for glycosides, but importantly, glycosides are important in the heart. In the heart, at the heart, we have cardiac glycosides. The cardiac glycosides contains a steroid as a aglycan. Two examples regarding cardiac glycosides are opine and digoxin. This opine and digoxin can act as an inhibitor of NAK ATPase. Here you can see the structure of opine and digoxin and cardiac glycosides. These compounds can regulate the rate of heart pumpage, yes, because they are inhibitors of NAK ATPase pump. But about the but about the disaccharides. Disaccharides are formed by condensation between, yes, regulate heartbeat. Yes, one of their action is regulation of heartbeat. Disaccharides are formed by condensation between two monosaccharides. You're welcome. Uh, in disaccharide, we have O glycosidic bond. Yes, sodium. Yes, Na or sodium. Here you see, I will come back to the previous slide, but I want to talk about this slide now. As you can see here, we have two type of disaccharide, reducing and non-reducing. In reducing group, Na, K, sodium, Ta, yes. We have two type of, okay. Yes, yes. In this slide, we have, excuse me, please let me continue. And I set the notes. Excuse me. We said that we have two type of disaccharide based on reducing or non-reducing terminal end. In reducing disaccharide, we have maltose and lactose. But as for non-reducing, we have trehalose and sucrose. It's important to memorize the name of these disaccharides as reducing and not reducing, especially sucrose for non-reducing and maltose and lactose for reducing. But who can say about the difference between reducing and non-reducing disaccharide? Why, for example, maltose and lactose are considered as reducing disaccharide, but sucrose are classified as non-reducing disaccharide? Who can say? Reduce other compounds, non-reduce, have no free, have no free. In reducing sugar, the anomeric carbon is free to bind. Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your perfect cooperation. Um, as you know, maltose is composed of two glucose. These glucose are bind together with chiral carbon. Yes, I talked about chiral carbon in brief. We said that when four different groups are linked to carbon, we have chiral or asymmetric carbon. It's enough for you. I don't know. Yes, yes. Here you can see the structure of maltose. Maltose is composed of two glucose, glucose and glucose. Yes, these uh, these glucose are linked together by uh, um, these glucose are bound between one carbon one from first glucose, and carbon four from second glucose. Yes, but as you know, we have non-reducing end and reducing end. Yes, glucose on the right or reducing end. Reducing end of the disaccharide can participate in a reduction reaction. Yes, it can participate in reduction reaction, reducing part. But non-reducing part or non-reducing end cannot participate in reduction reaction because the carbon 1 is a part of 1 to 4 linkage this this is a part of 1 to 4 linkage. This structure is related maltose. Maltose is composed from Two glucose is important for a final exam. Two glucose, two glucose. Reducing. Um, yes, C1 and C4 are involved in the ring formation. Yes. What about the lactose? Lactose is formed of galactose and glucose. Galactose and glucose. The lack of lactase led to lactose intolerance. We have lactose intolerance as a popular disorder regarding lactose. Lactose intolerance. In this condition, we have exertion of lactose in the urine. In the urine, lactose. And about sucrose. Sucrose is composed of glucose and fructose. As a rare genetic disorder, we have sucrose intolerance. In sucrose intolerance, we have lack of sucrase. Sucrase is an enzyme that can hydrolyze sucrose into glucose and fructose. Sucrose. Sucrose. Suc- Sucrase. Sucrase is an enzyme that can hydrolyze sucrose into glucose and fructose. Yes, yes. Is an, and lack of sucrase led to sucrose deficiency, sucrose intolerance, excuse me, sucrose intolerance. But tree hollows is not important in our body, in the structure of our body. Trehalose found is the main sugar in insects. In insects is insect. Please memorize the name of component in the structure of sucrose, lactose, and maltose and trehalose for final exam. But the shape is not important. The shape is not important. The reducing and non-reducing and the component is important for final exam. This slide is important for final exam. This slide, please memorize this. We said that in sucrase deficiency, we have sucrose intolerance. In lactase deficiency, we have malabsorption. Please memorize this slide, especially this part. Especially this part. Do you agree with 5 minute rest? Uh, After this 5 minute rest, I think we have approximately 14 or 20 minutes for continuous lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have homopolysaccharide, it means we have only carbohydrate in the structure. For example, cellulose, chitin, glycogen, and inulin are homopolysaccharide because they, for example, they contain glucose. For example, we talk about these polysaccharides in other slide. But the homopolysaccharide can be classified into a structural or a storage polysaccharide or linear or branch polysaccharide. Inulin. Insulin is a hormone, yes? Inulin. Linear polysaccharide, right? Thank you. Linear polysaccharide, like for example, amylose, and branch polysaccharide, like for example, glycogen and amylopectin. We talk about these polysaccharide in other slides. But about the heteropolysaccharide, as for heteropolysaccharide, we have uh, carbohydrate and other component, other parts. For example, hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate, and heparin. They are heteropolysaccharide. Also, we have complex polysaccharide. Complex polysaccharide is more complicated in comparison with pure polysaccharide. At first, I want to talk about cellulose. Who can say about the structure of cellulose, about the importance of glucose, cellulose? Who can say? Who can say about cellulose? The structure of cellulose and the structure and the importance in our body. Who can say? It is undigested, yes, Golfam, thank you. In cartilage formation, cellulose in cartilage formation in our body, Fatima, maybe. Undigestible, yes. About the structure. Which monosaccharides are frequently are found in the structure of cellulose? Yes, Zahra, in plant, yes, only in plant. Cellulose made of glucose subunit, beta glucose. The linkage between glucose are related to beta linkage. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think all of them have a good mark from final exam, especially in part of carbohydrate. I think. What about the cellulose? What about the cellulose? Cellulose is the chief component of plant cell wall. Plant cell wall. It's important in plant, not in human, in the structural part of human body. It is insoluble. It is insoluble. It cannot be soluble in water. Yes. It is consist of glucose units. Glucose unit. The glucose unit are linked together by beta 1 to 4 linkage. Beta bond between carbon 1 from one glucose and carbon 4 from the second glucose. Beta linkage, not alpha linkage. Beta linkage from carbon 1 from first glucose and carbon 4 from second glucose. As Golfam and other students said, in our body, we don't have any enzyme can digest cellulose in our body. But some microfilter in gut system, in microfilter, in normal filler in gut system can digest cellulose, but our body directly cannot be digest. Yes, but some normal microfilter in our body can digest cellulose into into small part, glucose, and glucose. In another word, mammals like human lack any enzyme that hydrolyze the beta linkage between glucose unit in cellulose. Yes, but microorganisms like normal flora located in gut system can hydrolyze the beta linkage. In in I want to respond. I want to have a response to your question. Yes, cellulose or fiber is important in our body in the strength bone skeleton system. Yes, but directly it's not important in, for example, cartilage formation in skeleton, in the formation of skeleton system in our body. Yes, but indirectly, the consumption of vegetable because they have a high amount of fiber is important in your health, in my health. But the cartilage formation, for example, we have importance of hyaluronic acid. So, for example, hyaluronic acid is very important for in cartilage formation. It can act as a lubricant. Yes, but cellulose is not important directly. Yes. Uh, Here you can see the structure of cellulose. Cellulose. The cellulose have a linear structure. Yes, we have a linear structure. We have a linear structure. As you know, as you can see here, we have hydrogen bond formation between adjacent linear structure. Yes, we have we have formation, we have hydrogen formation. We have we have hydrogen formation between adjacent linear structure of cellulose. But about the chitin, who but about the chitin, here you see the structure of chitin. Chitin is a structural polysaccharide. It's a structural, not a storage polysaccharide. It is frequently found in exoskeleton of insect, yes, exoskeleton of insect, and in some vegetables, some mushroom. Structurally, it consists of N acetyl, N acetyl, N-acetyl glucose amine unit. N-acetyl glucose amine unit. Structurally, it is composed of N-acetyl glucose amine. We have beta linkage between two N-acetyl glucose amine. Beta linkage. Beta linkage like cellulose. Therefore, our body directly cannot be hydrolyzed the chitin into an acetyl glucose amine because, as we said earlier, our body cannot because there are no enzymes that directly hydrolyze beta linkage in our body. Also, we have a starch. A starch. A starch is a storage polysaccharide in plants. It is composed of glucose units. Glucose units. Therefore, another name for starch is glucosan or glucan because it is a homopolymer of glucose, glucose, and so on. But the linkage between glucose unit are alpha, alpha glycosidic change, alpha, not beta. In contrast to cellulose and chitin, we have alpha linkage between glucose units. Structurally, starch um, are composed of two main parts, amylose and amylopectin. Who can say about the difference between amylose and amylopectin? Amylose and amylopectin. Amylopectin is branch. Thank you, Sajid. Amylose only 1 to 4 glycosidic and amylopectin both of them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your cooperation. I'm so happy when we have the cooperation of other students. I enjoy it. As you said, amylose, yes, amylose is more soluble in comparison with, as you know, as you said, amylose is a linear polysaccharide. It contains approximately the 100 glucose that are linked together with alpha 1 to 4 glycosidic bond. Yes, but about the amylopectin. In contrast to amylose, amylopectin is a branch polysaccharide. It contains approximately 100,000 glucose units that are connected together with alpha linkage, but between the second the carbon 1 from the first glucose and carbon 4 and carbon 6 from the second glucose. In to put it another way, we have combination of alpha 1 to 4 and alpha 1 to 6 glycosidic bond in the structure of amylopectin. In addition, amylose, as a result of formation of hydrogen bond, can form the left-handed helical. In our body, we have an enzyme named alpha amylase. It can degrade amylose and amylopectin into glycosidic bond into a small part of glucose and disaccharide glucose, maltose, glucose, and then here you can see the structure of amylose and amylopectin. As you can see here in the structure of amylopectin, in the structure of amylopectin, we have alpha 1 to 6 linkage, and also we have alpha 1 to 4 linkage. Yes, but the structure of amylose, we have only the alpha 1 to 4 linkage between glucose units. But about this glycogen, we said that the starch is a storage form of polysaccharide in plants, but in memory, like human, we have glycogen. Glycogen, like a synonym for a starch, but in our body, in human. Glycogen is a storage polysaccharide in animal, especially human. Structurally, we have a lot of granule in our body that is that consist of glycogen. Totally, approximately 10 folded 6 glucose unit can be found in per granule. Like starch, we have two type of alpha linkage in the structure of glycogen: alpha 1 to 4 and alpha 1 to 6. We have, like starch, amylopectin, and in the structure of glycogen. Also, we have a branch point in the structure of glycogen. Glycogen is a branch polysaccharide. A starch is a branch polysaccharide. But ketene and cellulose have a linear structure. Who can say about the biomedical importance of glycogen in our body? Biomedical importance. Who can say about the biomedical importance of glycogen in our body? Thank you very much. Energy source. How can a glycogen act as energy source for our body, for your body? Thank you. Glycogen is broken down to produce glucose. Yes. As you know, and as you said, glycogen, yes, for ATP formation. Thank you very much, Golfam. As you blood glucose, thank you, thank you very much. As you said, glycogen is a storage polysaccharide. When our body need energy, need glucose, some hormones, like for example glucagon, like cortisol, can act on glycogen. These hormones can stimulate glycogen, the breakdown into glucose. In this condition, we have hyperglycemia. Yes, when our body needs glycogen, when our body needs energy and glucose as an important fuel, glycogen is an important source for producing glucose and energy as a form of ATP. Thank you very much. Glycogen is professionally found in muscle and liver. Yeah, yes, liver and also muscle. Here you see the structure of glycogen as a branch polysaccharide. Yes, and the structure of glycogen in granule. As for glycogen, we have non-reducing and reducing end, like for example maltose, reducing end and non-reducing end. What about the inulin is a polysaccharide. It is composed of fructose, therefore it is termed fructosan. Fructosan. But it is found in some plants, in roots of some plants, not in human. Inulin is easily soluble in water, but clinically it is used to determine the GFR or glomerular filtration rate as an index for kidney function. Yes, inulin can be used in determination of GFR or glomerular filtration rate as an index for kidney function. Please memorize this notion for final exam, the clinical importance. Also, we have dextrin. Dextrin is a intermediate that is produced in process of hydrolysis of starch. Therefore, structurally, dextrin is composed of glucose, because we said that starch is composed of different unit of glucose. In addition, dextrin is form of glucose, like for example glycogen, like for example starch. Yes, but finally, I want to talk about heteropolysaccharide. When we said we have heteropolysaccharide, it means we have extra parts in addition to carbohydrate in the structure. Yes. Glycosaminoglycan or GAG are important class of polysaccharide in connective tissues and extracellular matrix or ECF. Some important glycosaminoglycan or GAG include hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate, and heparin. Please memorize the name of this glycosaminoglycan. This structure consists of repeating disaccharide units, repeating, A, repeating disaccharide units. But in some condition, we have modified monosaccharide in the structure of glycosaminoglycan. For example, we have amino sugar or urinic acid in the structure of glucosaminoglycan. Moreover, we have protoglycan. Protoglycan is composed from attachment or adding of glycosaminoglycan to a protein molecules. I repeat it again. Protoglycan, it is a result from attachment of GAG to a protein molecules. Here you can see the structure of hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is frequently found in uh, skeleton system and can act as a lubricant system. Chondroitin sulfate, and heparin. What about the heparin? Heparin is important as a in blood coagulation system. You hear the name of heparin very much in the literature and in your references. As you know, heparin is a good example regarding a glucose aminoglycan that is present in a special in a special cell in immune system like mast cell in immune system. Release of heparin from mast cell inhibit blood clotting. Inhibit blood clotting. It acts as an coagulant. Yes, it prevents blood clotting by binding to protein that initiate the clotting cascade. Please memorize this slide for final exam. As you know, the purified and pure responsible for allergic reaction. Yes, thank you, Wolfram. Purified heparin is frequently used as anticoagulant in clinical laboratory when and in the process of blood products. We talk about this slide, but about the complex polysaccharide, we said that complex polysaccharide is more complicated in comparison to pure polysaccharide. It is composed of polysaccharide plus protein, like for example, protoglycan, glycoprotein, or it is composed of, it is a form of polysaccharide plus lipid like glycolipid. In protoglycan and peptidoglycan, we have condensation between polysaccharide and protein. This structure is frequently used in ECF and also in bacterial cell wall. But as for glycoprotein is important in ABO blood group and serum glycoprotein and in cell recognition system. Also, we have glycolipid. Glycolipid can act as a receptor for bacterial toxin. And as for lipopolysaccharide or LPS, LPS is frequently found in gram-negative bacterial cell wall, and the release of LPS from bacterial can stimulate the inflammatory system in our body. Here you can see the structure of protoglycan. As we said, we can say the protoglycan are made from attachment of GAG2 protein, and it is frequently used in extracellular matrix and can act as a cell recognition system. Uh, I finish. I try to gather important note regarding carbohydrate. My the contents derive from Harper and Lippincott. It's not out of the Harpers and Lippincott. But for the final exam, please focus on important note that I repeat it in the in this session in this part. 4 slides. Uh-huh. It is okay. Okay. Miss, will the exam be like previous? Miss, will the exam dear students, I send the slides to Golfam, and I request Golfam the Golfam send this slide for all students. Moreover, I try to upload this slide in Navid system. In Navid system. Don't worry. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you have any question, please send an email to me. Don't worry about the final exam. The question, my question, is so easy if you listen to my lecture. And today, I promise to have a good final score. Hadi, please. Hadi, inshallah. About the water and buffer, when we talk about at this first session about the water and buffer, uh, I uploaded the slide of water and buffer in our Navi 2. When I had the first session, I tried to focus on important slide, but for your convenience, um I determined the important slide as for water and buffer and write the number of important slides for final exam. Although when I had a when I taught this session, water and buffer, I focus on important note. But again, I wrote the number of important slides for final exam regarding water and buffer part. Uh, okay, I want to. I want to. I want to. I want to explain the importance of carbohydrate session again, but important slide, not more than. Visa biochemistry subject which has a lot of. Excuse me, Hadi. I'm not having a visa biochemistry. I'm visa, but a subject which has a lot of concept. Understanding the slide is a bit difficult. I'm not able to figure out what's important, what's not in any slide regarding me. I'm not having a visa, but chemistry is a subject which has a lot of concept. Understanding is big. Hadi, biochemistry, I think, is really sweet, but in some parts, when you want to memorize for example, the structure, it seems difficult. You're right, but except this session, the structure of, for example, lipid and carbohydrate and enzyme, it's sweet. Um, Me, like you, uh, I try to memorize some concept. For example, the structure of glucose, the definition of enantiomer, anomer, isomers, and gain. But it's not difficult. I think it's better to have a different view on biochemistry. Please be kind to biochemistry, Hadi. Oh, I'm not having. Oh, I didn't attend any offline lecture. I have the PowerPoint of video professor to most slide. Thank you very much. I repeat the important notes again for final exam. Excuse me. Let me. But for water and buffer, I wrote the number of important slides because no, I didn't have I didn't have water and buffer. I didn't have a slide of water and buffer, and I should find it in my laptop. But as for carbohydrate, I repeat the important note again. Please let me. Please memorize the biomedical importance of every carbohydrate. I focus it. Please, in Navid system. and in email that it will be sent to Gold Farm. Don't worry. Um, please memorize the biome. Please memorize. Please memorize the biomedical importance of. No, can you resend us the import? No, dear students, I sent in the number of important slide for final exam. Just this, not repeat the more important. If you have any question, I repeat it again. But as for carbohydrate, please let me repeat the important notes. Thank you very much. Okay, Zahra. I mean, I sent a number of important slides. As for final exam, it's important to memorize. As for final exam, it's important to memorize the biomedical importance of carbohydrate and any carbohydrate that I focused last in over the lecture. For example, this slide is important. This slide is important as is and is so easy. This slide is important. This slide is important. And about the classification of carbohydrate into, for example, aldehyde group, ketone group. This slide important. This is important. Is important. The shape, the memorizing shape is not important. The definition is important for me. Is important. Is important. Important. In this slide, the name of glyceraldehyde, ribose, glucose, mannose, and galactose is important, but the name of other monosaccharide is not important. And for this slide, fructose and dehydroxyacetone and ribulose is important. It's important to yes, MCQ, yes. As for I have nine question, three session, for three session, for each session, three question. This slide is important. The name structure, the name. This slide is important. This slide is important, but the structure is not important. The definition and the concept is important. This slide important, but not the shape. Is not important. The definition of chiral or asymmetric carbon is important. Also, we said that, for example, the dihydroxyacetone is not does not have a chiral carbon. Please memorize this dihydroxyacetone. This is important. It is important. The formula for finding the number of stereoisomer is important. For example, we have 4 asymmetric carbon in glucose, therefore we have 16 isomer. It's important, but the structure of the shape is not important. Is important. Which monosaccharide are epimer of each other? Glucose, galactose, and mannose. Please memorize this. Is important. Is not important. Not important. Conformational isomers include chain and both. It's sufficient. It's enough. Not the shape or the structure is not necessary. They are not necessary. Is very important. 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 Very important. Very important. This table is very important. 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 important, 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 finish. Don't worry about final exam. If you uh, if you listen to me today carefully, I'm sure to have a good final exam. As for carbohydrates, don't worry. Thank you very much. If you have any question, please send me an email. And also, I wrote my phone number again. My phone number again. In short, yet it's all important. I have a question regarding with vitamin. Water and buffer. Yes. Uh, I have excuse me, I have two sessions with you. Uh, I think I think the first session, water and buffer, is related to two session. Yes, two session. My questions are related to water and buffer and carbohydrates. Vitamins, I think vitamins are related to Dr. Said Ibrahimi. Yes, yes. If you have any question, I can respond, but Dr. Said Ibrahimi can also respond to it. About vitamin, do you have any question? About water and buffer. Uh, uh, I send the slides of water and buffer and carbohydrate to goal farm, and also I write the number of important slides regarding water and buffer. Moreover, if I have access to Navid system, I try to upload in Navid system too. But no, today I send all my slides to goal farm. Don't worry. And goal farm send them to other